What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Infusion Breakdown Show, where we discuss everything from world events to philosophy. My name is Joshua Williams. To my left, we have the one and only Bryan Carey. To my right, we have Mr. Desmond Tillmon. Basically, today's topic we want to discuss: is it harder to love someone, or is it harder to be loved by someone? So that's basically a big question today. So I don't know what you guys think. We, of course, don't discuss the actual topics beforehand, just let you guys know. But for me, I feel, well, of course, I'm going to start. For me, I feel it depends on the person, obviously. I want to say it's harder to love, though, simply because my past experiences, I just know that it's been harder for me to love because of what I expect, and I feel expectations, that's what's the cause of that, as far as what do I expect, and that's what makes it so hard. So if it doesn't come out what I expect, then it's going to be basically hard for me. So that's why I feel it's harder to love rather than to actually be loved, because I feel I'm an easily lovable person.
So you're saying people's actions don't match your perception of what the love you feel you should
Not
receive.
always.
Okay.
Not always.
What do you feel you should receive?
What I feel should be. I mean, it depends on the person, though. I mean, it varies. It just varies. Like, some person might not give me something, while the other person might give me that, but not give me something else. It just depends, though.
Right.
But yeah, it just depends. But yeah, is it harder to be loved, or is it harder to love someone? What do you guys think?
I'm gonna tell you.
I'm gonna listen first, and then I'm
okay. Well, I think the opposite way. I think it's harder to be loved than it is to love someone, because everyone can relate to the phenomenon that is unrequited love, where it's not returned, because we tend to want what we can't have, and it also comes from I believe that we don't understand other people's love languages. So I understand how I love someone, like the way I display love. It's 5 different languages. I think it's affirmation, quality time, gifts, physical, and the 5th one is acts of service. So like, I know how I express my love to people, but I don't know somebody else's love language. So I don't know necessarily. I could feel like they're not giving me the love that I need, but they could be. It's just I don't understand their style, but I understand my style, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like it's so much easier for us to love people than to be loved, because you have to understand another individual versus you already understand yourself for the most part.
Interesting.
I think my only issue with that perception of it is, it's like you're kind of making excuses for the other party for not taking the time and effort to learn how you necessarily need to be loved for, rather than you giving love one way based off of what you see that they need, and then them not making the same effort to like reciprocate it. If I'm understanding it right, and that's kind of like some stuff that I've experienced. And so I was thinking about this in the shower today, and I think it's like a 50-50 question, where there is no right or wrong answer. And the reason why I say that is because you also have to factor in so much stuff. What was the relationship like between mom and dad when they was growing up? Because a lot of people experience and show love through what they see in the household. So if they came up in an abusive household, that's how they're going to show love. Mm-hmm. And they have to learn how to show love based off of taking the time out to figure out how to love themselves first before you can actually love somebody else. Like, and the reason why I say that is because there are a lot of people who go through a lot in life and search for relationships and search for love to kind of like validate their feelings. And so, not necessarily validate it, but like have like a comfort to where, they feel like somebody understands, rather than understanding first and foremost that when you learn to address your faults, when you learn to love yourself first and take on your anxiety, your depression, your abusive history as your own, rather than trying to learn how to handle it through somebody else, then that allows you to go into a relationship knowing how to pretty much snuff all that thing before it even happens. Like, if you feel like you're experiencing that, then you already know how to stop it before it comes to fruition almost. And almost what I mean by that is you're learning how to handle your depression or anxiety before you project it onto somebody else, because they're not going to take it as that. they're going to take it as something as you're reacting in a certain way. And if you don't ever come out and communicate that that's what you're going through, then it's just going to be a constant cycle of, well, if he or she's going to do this, then I'm going to do that. And that's why I feel like it's a 50-50 role, because if you want to flip it onto the other side of whether if it's harder to be loved, I mean, from my own personal perspective, like as a narcissist, you kind of like have this wall built up because you feel like your worth. You feel like, okay, if I'm doing this, then I know I'm going to get this in return. And it doesn't work like that at all. And part of the reason why a lot of people have that narcissistic attitude is because they've gone years and years of having like some form of an emotional abuse or being slept on. And then as they grow older, education level, like their introspective levels are higher than what they were middle school, early high school, to where like, hey, I know I'm the shit. Like I don't have to have X, Y, and Z, but I know I'm the shit. But even behind that bravado, there is a heart that wants to be loved. There's emotions that want to be addressed, and then most importantly, they want that reciprocated just as much as they want to show it. So that's why I feel like it's a 50-50 thing, because there is no perfect relationship, and there is no way you're going to ever experience a perfect relationship, because there is no two of the same. Like you're not going to experience the same relationship more than once, unless you choose to keep going down the same path of chasing what's not working. If you're going to chase what's not working, then you're going to hit the same blockade every single time.
Isn't that what most people do?
They do. And they spend a lot of people do that not only off of previous experiences, but not having the intelligence to realize that, as much as I'm attracted to this, it's not what's best for me. And a lot of people, and this goes back to knowing how to love yourself first before you try and love somebody else, because when you learn to love yourself, that first sign of distrust should be the only sign of distrust. Yeah. And that way it's like, okay, I know this isn't working, scrap it. Whereas, if you're in a relationship with somebody and this relationship is 2, 3, 4 years, and then you see the signs of distrust, it's like, okay, is this a one-time thing, or is it, going to be repetitive? Or is it the first time that I've seen it, but it's been happening the whole time? Right. And so it's like so much stuff that you have to factor into, like, was it an impulsive decision, or has it been something that's been happening the whole time? So, like, that's why I think it's a 50-50 split down the middle.
That last point you brought up about whether it's a reoccurring thing or was a first-time offense, that brings a lot into question of a person's personal responsibility for evaluating someone else's character. Yeah. Like if a woman shows me that she lied about something previously, and I continue to deal with her and she lies about something else, I'm just as guilty as she is.
You are.
Because I enabled you to do that. I can't play victim,
Yeah, and I think that was one of the greatest things that I achieved as a person, was learning how to not victimize myself, because it's so easy for in the moment to victimize yourself. Yeah. But then if you actually look back at, okay, well, you know what? I did do this, and I did do this, and I did do this. And, person only can take so much before their fuse blows. And then you're left with the aftermath. Because typically when somebody bottles something up and then it all comes out at once, the person doing the wrong doesn't feel it instantly. They feel justified in their actions. And then it's months after, to where there's no communication, no emotional showing towards either one, and you're like, okay, well, I really did fuck up. But the person who was done wrong feels everything right there, instead of actually like trying to have clarity of mind to realize, okay, you know what, part of this is my fault. I can't necessarily take 100% accountability for somebody's actions, but I also can't negate the fact that I helped motivate I helped influence their motives almost. So that's what I had to learn from, just my own experiences with dealing with love in itself. So,
yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned like factors as far as like stuff in the home and everything like that. What if things in the home are fine? What if their definition of love is completely different than what they've seen, not really on TV or from their parents or something like that?
So you said they're not following examples?
Yeah.
So you can take this first, because I have another.
No, I just wanted to clarify. Like he was directing the question more towards.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if you want me to take that, so I can actually dive perfect into this from my own personal experience, because I grew up with parents who didn't argue in front of us. So when I got into my first relationship, I didn't know how to argue. I knew how to argue as somebody who was studying law, studying political science. So I felt I always needed to be right. And in a relationship, there is no, you're right, you're wrong. It's compromising. Like, okay, this is my perception. What's your perception? So we can see where the miscommunication's at. It wasn't until, and I'm 24 years old, I say the first time I heard my parents argue was last week. Today is October 14th, and I want to say I think I started my intermittent fast on a Wednesday. So the first time I heard my parents argue was Thursday. And it was only because, like, when you intermittent fast, your sleep schedule, like, changes itself. Like, you have to adjust to it. So I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I have my son, and I was like, you know what, I can't get up because if I move, he's going to get up. So I, like, just laid there, and I heard my dad talking to my mom, and it was just like how he was talking to her was exactly how I used to speak to my son's mom. And I was like, now I see why I reacted the way I did, because it was instinctive. It's like the same way how he talks, because I'm an exact replica of my dad. Like, I'm a lighter version. So we speak the same way, we move the same way, we think the same way. So it was like I realized that as I've become a man and, like, tried to track down my own path, that part of the reason why I had so much fault is because I was doing what's natural. Like, not necessarily what I see because I never saw it, but it really was something natural, because how he spoke to my mom in that time and place was the same way I spoke to my son's mom. So I was like, I'm glad I'm becoming my own person, because even though my parents have a healthy relationship, not every woman can take that, stern, I'm speaking my mind whether you want to hear it or not. They want to hear that compromising and finding, some ground in the middle. And the reason why I say that is because not every woman can take emotions into consideration during that first initial argument. Like, it's like, okay, well, if you're going to show your hand, I'm going to show my hand as well. And then that's how shit blows up to where, breakups happen, after the first argument, or, acts of spite. So I hope that answers your question, because there is no, necessarily right or wrong of what you see at home, because it's, as you see somebody who grew up in a household with, both parents and had a healthy relationship, you still take on a lot of that negative, and that negative is always in a relationship going to outweigh that positive, because typically it's going to come out a lot stronger and a lot more, verbal in a negative aspect than, whatever positive you've been doing, because that positive has been the norm. And then it's like, oh shit, like this is what I have to deal with when we argue. Like, that's nothing I want to deal with. So
I was looking at it as far as when you say instincts, I was thinking of when you say you heard your dad argue for the first time, I was thinking like you heard yourself in him. I was thinking like, oh, so is that the first time you ever heard your dad and argue, and that you realize that's how you are, like that? So you feel you're naturally like that, as far as you genetically?
I think not. I'm not gonna say genetically. It's just like, it's kind of like how the whole racism thing is. You aren't born racist, you learn it.
Yeah.
And so that's just something like I've learned from how his speech pattern is, from how he talks.
Right.
It's just like the natural thing that happened as a result of me just learning all that stuff from him. So it's like, who knows, if I would have had the speech pattern of my mom, like a little bit more compassion, I would have been able to understand emotion first and then logic. But it's always like, when you think of logic first, you're like, no, I'm right. Instead of taking into consideration like the emotional aspect of a relationship and what comes with being with a woman or a man.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I got you.
That brings up something else too. So like, there's a number of variables that go into like our style of argument. For example, like how you were raised, your outlook, your relationship with that particular individual, your communication style. All those different things, they matter. And on the flip side of that, I've seen my parents argue. I've seen what works and what doesn't work. So it's up to the individual to have the responsibility to to be introspective and look back in hindsight and say, well, okay, so the parents, I seen this and this worked, or maybe this didn't work, and see the outcome of it and try to correct those wrongs. I take personal accountability for that in my personal life.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't do that. But
It's rare.
it's funny how everything else, for example, like if you want to pick up a martial art, let's say you want to do karate, you have to practice to be good, right? But people, we think for some reason we can automatically relationship and get it right without practicing, without learning, without studying, you know.
Well, when they think of practice, they think of like a sport. They think of something you're trying to get good at. When they think of relationship, they think, "Oh, I should be already good at this type thing."
They're not.
I know that's what they think though. That's what I'm saying.
Because so preparing for a relationship, all that consists of a lot. But for example, it consists of learning your flaws, learning how to assess yourself, and know what buttons you have, what triggers, and learn how to deal with like your let's say you're not good at communication, correcting it. How can I convey my ideas and not insult the other person, or just there's a multitude of things that we have to prepare and work on ourselves before you're able to impose yourself on another individual, because it can be disastrous.
And a lot of thing is like when people are battling with a lot of, you know, I'm not going to necessarily highlight mental illnesses, but like when they're battling with a lot of stuff mentally, they kind of have like this barrier of control to where they're like, okay, well, this is how I want stuff to go. And they go into a relationship with somebody who's completely autonomous, who does what they want and has their own free will. You don't have control over that. So you're going into a relationship like, okay, well, if I do this, then things are going to go that way. If I do this, then they're going to react this way. Like you're kind of like predating how everything should happen. And when that doesn't happen, then it's like a meltdown, like irrational thought, like, well, why the fuck didn't this work this way if I did it exactly how it was supposed to go in my mind and she didn't react the way I wanted her to? And so that's another one of the things that like I had a hard time adapting to in my first relationship, because I had everything played out in my head, because I didn't date a lot of females like in high school. Like my son's mom was my first like official relationship, because I just didn't see the value of the relationship at that time. And then so going into it, I was like, you know what? I dealt with a lot of women going through high school, and I felt like none of it was worth my time. So I'm going to plan all the events out in my head of how I want stuff to unfold. And then so she can actually see like...
Wait, as far as what events, what do you mean?
Like...
I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. But
as far as...
I feel like when you're with the girl, as far as like...
You're saying like milestones or...
Milestones and like, okay, so when I realize that she is acting this way, then that's how I know I'm ready for the relationship. Almost type thing.
So a checklist.
Exactly. Like based off of how certain actions are. So in my head, I was doing something expecting a reaction. So I knew in my head I was ready to go to the next step. And that, I mean, it's not an unhealthy practice. Like a lot more people I feel should do that instead of just freelancing through a relationship, because you'll waste a lot of time like ignoring certain things that should set it off. And because I was operating off of the checklist and she's more free spirited, I was ignoring a lot of things that should have been, you know, warning signs. And I was like, you know what? Well, maybe if I do it different this time, then I'll get the reaction. And I would have done something that was necessarily unnatural, and just to get that reaction. So I wasn't reacting based off of my own compassion, my own emotional state. I was doing something to a different way to get a reaction. And that's not bad as well, because you have to learn how to love somebody based off of their own needs. But I was doing something necessarily that I wasn't proud of per se. Like it wasn't how it was supposed to unfold in my mind. And of course, dealing with that factor of control, when something doesn't go as you planned in your mind, then you start to doubt what you're actually doing in the relationship. So,
but that's what emotions are. Emotions are how we perceive how we compare our expectations to reality, our reactions to that. So if you get frustrated, it's because it went differently than what you expected it to.
Yeah. But before I actually go into that, because I feel I did the same thing as far as like not really actual checklist, but I feel I kind of did. I waited for kind of moments. Yeah. Not really. She would have to do this, but I would think like, oh, if she made me feel this type of way, like, oh, okay, cool. Like I think we can move ahead with this or something like that, or something like that. But I feel it was just a little bit different. But back to the natural thing that you was talking about, when it as far as adoption. How do you feel that word? Do you feel like as far as those kids will go as far as their adopted parents, or even if they never ever known their parents for real, as far as do you feel that type of love will translate to the child, or how do you feel that will happen, or it's more of adopted parents?
Well, I think
Because you said naturally, so I was just thinking.
Well, so what I like take from that is like I feel, and I don't know from firsthand experience, but I feel like adopted kids almost have like a chip on their shoulder, to where, and I think I don't know, I think they carry that same chip on their shoulder as like the parents who, or the kids that grow up in like single parent households with like no dad, and they're like, you know what, my biologicals didn't want me, so when I get the chance, I'm gonna do stuff exactly how my parents should have did it, so I can set the example for my kids. And that's how I perceive it. I know that's not how it is, because a lot of kids grow up in healthy households with mom and dad, biological parents, and still fuck up relationships. Like, like that's just that's just them. But how I would perceive it to be would be them going through their love life, making the same mistakes that somebody who grew up in a household with both biological parents, but also carrying that chip on their shoulder that, you know, when I do settle down with my family, I want it to be like this, because I'm never going to put my kids through the same thing that I experienced. And that's how I would like to perceive it. But at the same time, I know everything's not what you perceive it to be.
Yeah. But that's given that they adequately deal with all the emotional, you know, trauma that they had in the past, given that, you know, of course they feel some kind of way because their biological parents gave them up for adoption. It's something you have to process. It's not something you just get past.
I feel it doesn't always have to be trauma though. Like,
but I think it's trauma.
But you don't like it. Like, it's not. You have negative emotions attached to it. Because most children at a young age, you don't really understand it. Like, per se, like if the parents weren't able to provide you the resources or give you, you know, what you needed, and they give you it for adoption, you're not going to understand it until you're older most times.
And what I meant, like, at the first part of my statement where, like, they go through their own struggles, I think me saying they go through their own struggles is, like, identity crisis. Like, because they're getting to the age to where they're developing their own personality, and that personality is in what they see at home. It's like, you know, genetics, per se. Like, what they perceive to be natural. So they're going through that identity crisis because what comes natural to them is probably something that their, you know, foster parents can't necessarily provide, you know, accurate advice on. Like, that's how I like, even though my son's mom and I aren't together, I always think about that. Like, there's going to be things that she's going to go through that she's not even going to know how to respond to, because he's going to be reacting in a way of which I would act. And then I realize there's going to be things that he's going to do because she's her own person. She's more free-spirited. And I'm going to have to sit here and compromise and say, okay, I understand this is how your mom acts, so I feel like you should get the advice from her so you know exactly what to do, because I'm not equipped to react in a responsible and, you know, informative way. So I know as like parents, you do have to learn how to deal with your kids, but at the same time, like, it doesn't always work out that way. Like, you don't have a full understanding of who you create or who you procreated with. Like, shit happens like that. You know, hopefully next time around I will have a kid with the person who I tied the knot with, but at the end of the day, like, there's still going to be stuff that kid is going to do that mom knows best with. So
yeah,
it really brings into question nature versus nurture.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of going at as far as how it is. Yeah,
I say yes and no, because there's a lot of stuff that I can do that my dad will understand, like that, and then there's stuff that, like, that same thing, my mom will like, well, why are you doing it like that? And then my dad will say, like, you don't see it like you're supposed to get it, and that's like that's what I mean by it, because like I just see it from there. And then even with my son's brother, like, grew up under did I say my son?
Yeah, you said
son's
brother.
I'm sorry. My son's mom's brother, like, he reacts totally different than how her dad acts, how my son's mom's dad acts, but he spent more time under, you know, his stepdad than he did his biological dad. So it's like, there comes that time to where, like, his stepdad was just like, you know what, there's certain things I don't know how to deal with. Your real dad should know how to deal with it. But, you know, real dad wasn't there. And if he was there, it wasn't like he wasn't in the right frame of mind, per se, to give advice. Like, he never escaped his years of adolescence. Like, he's still immature as an adult, or hasn't really amounted to what, you know, man who has a child, wife, all this should necessarily be. So
Gotcha. Yeah. To actually extend on the actual question, I do want to ask, because your answer seemed to be, well, you are kind of mentioned it already, well, hinted at it, as far as have you ever been in love? I'm guessing you have.
I think I've been in love with the concept of being in love.
We're gonna come back to that. Have you been in love? Have you ever been in love?
I would say so, yes.
You would say so?
Yeah.
You're not sure?
No, I would definitely say so.
I feel that's not a.
I said that because I knew you would question it. So prior to me having this conversation with you, I would say yes. But given whatever set of criteria that you're about to impose on me,
no, I
might change the answer.
No, I was just asking. Okay. As far as that, yeah, I've been in love too, though. But what do you mean as far as that? Being in love with the guy. I feel what you mean is you think you're in love, or you're trying to.
I've been in love, but it's not necessarily healthy love. It's not what love is supposed to be per se. Like I can't, and I'll admit my faults as like I didn't deal with my mental health issues like I should have. So it's like two toxic people in a relationship doing what they felt or giving what they felt was love, when in fact that's not what it is. Like, yeah, you can have acts of kindness and do all that stuff, but that's the same shit your parents or your best friends do for you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I could say that in the time there was a lot of love there, but it's not what genuine love is supposed to be. Because I feel like if you're gonna say, have you been in love, the other person was in love as well.
Oh, so you don't. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's a double-sided.
Because I feel like if you're gonna say in love, then there's like a lot of respect, a lot of reciprocation. Like I feel like that's how it should.
It's a mutual.
Oh, okay.
It's definitely more of a mutual thing.
Okay, give me that. I'll change my answer because I don't feel like I've ever been matched. Like maybe it might be a situation where I love the individual more than they love me, or I feel also vice versa too.
I feel we all feel that way since we're at that moment. At that point, we're single. That makes sense. If you really think about it.
No, because hindsight is always 20/20, but that's only when everything is factored in. Mm-hmm. Like if you take in both sides, like okay, this is what I did. If I did this, then I understand why she did this. Like. Hindsight could be 20/20 in the sense of, you know what, fuck that bitch, she did all this to me, like this is why I feel the way I do. Like it's not necessarily right or wrong, but hindsight is 20/20 to me in the sense where I factored in, okay, 4-year relationship, I did this wrong, but I also did this right. Why couldn't I have did more right than I did wrong?
You have a complete picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Hindsight can be 20/20 in the sense of you looking at one specific incident and hopes to validate what you're feeling present day. That's like there's nothing wrong with that, but you're just looking at a small frame instead of the full picture. So I say no, because looking back at the full picture, there's a lot of shit that both we did throughout a full relationship, saying we loved each other, but we didn't show it how love is actually supposed to be shown, in the sense of not doing stuff knowing it's going to hurt the other person. Like we did it, we chose with a clear conscience to do this even though we knew it was going to hurt that person. So like looking back on it, like in the moment, absolutely right, you can say you're in love, but actually as you actually look back at your actions and dissect what you did over a span of time, like you can't actually come to the conclusion that that was 100% true genuine love. It was like a lot of lust that was dragged out for a long ass time.
So you're saying people that are really in love won't ever cheat? Or
no, they will. They will, but they will also own up to what they do and do what's necessary to right their wrongs. Like
always? Always?
I feel like if it's in love, then yes. Like everybody's going to have impulsive, actions. But it takes like someone who truly realizes they genuinely love this person to try and right their wrong, because there's motherfuckers that will cheat throughout the whole relationship or just cheat once, and then you say, nah, you know what, fuck it, I don't want to stay here. Like they didn't want to stay here when they was cheating the first time, but it was a place of comfort. It was like a little minor blanket of security. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people will say that they're in love and stay in relationships because of the security of being in a relationship. Mm-hmm. That's not love. Like that's That's you caught up in the moment and staying in a situation because it provides some form of security that you're lacking in some other part of your life.
Yeah,
like
comfort.
that's not love. It's like a in the moment feel good like desire.
Yeah, my next question is going to be, how do you know her feelings weren't, because of course everybody's perception is different, and I feel, how do you know her feelings wasn't actually love?
You don't
know.
You don't, because you've never, unless you actually sit down.
So it is possible that you two could have been in love.
Yeah. If you want to take it that way, then yeah. But from my perspective, when I actually sit down and look at what I did, and I can say I was wrong, and then I look back at what she did, and I've never got an apology. That's why I can sit here and say that this isn't love, because I can sit here and I can apologize and say I want accountability. But if you sit back and you look at everything you did, and it's like, oh well, sorry that you made me mad type thing, then that's not love. That's not in love. That's one person wanting to do for another person that they want done in return for themselves. And
pride will never trump love. You don't feel?
No. Oh, I'm sorry. You said pride will never trump love?
Yeah, that's what.
Oh, don't get me started.
When you asked him, how does he know that on her part it wasn't love?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you.
For me, I evaluate myself and how I act based on, to others, and I'll ask myself, if I love someone, would I do this? Like, even with like relatives and like friends, like how could I say I love somebody if I'll do them wrong or lie to them or something like that? It's just I have a certain set of criteria that I withhold myself to that standard, So it allows me to be honest with myself, and it. Hold on.
You're good.
Lost my train of thought.
No, you're good.
But like, so with that criteria, I'm allowed to evaluate myself and judge my actions and make sure they're in line with the way that I feel, to make sure that person gets what I'm trying to convey to them, or however I feel.
Gotcha. Makes sense. I would just, as far as that, I didn't know as far as how you feel she feels about you. Mm-hmm. When were you in love? Like, at one point in your life? At high school?
Well, I changed my answer based upon what he said, because I do agree.
Okay, when were you not in love? Or,
like, when did I love the individual?
Yeah, love the individual.
I would say it was about a year ago.
About a year ago?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so do you feel it's different if it, of course, age, at a certain age, you feel you're in love, like in middle school?
Your perception of what love is changes as you grow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think of like middle school and high school, it's a lot of lust. Like, you don't know nothing about the individual, so how can you actually be in love with them? Like, and I mean, I know it sounds harsh as like 24 bashing a 12-year-old's perspective of what they think that love is, but that's just the harsh reality. Like, love isn't, seeing somebody and getting the flutters. Like, love is actually understanding somebody inside and out and choosing to either love them and continue to, push through the shit. You
saying love is not about butterflies?
No, I think it's part of it, but like
that's just infatuation.
Yeah, I think it's part of it. Like, love isn't just love isn't. Here you go. Like, love is. We could talk about love till 2:00 in the morning. It's only 9.
You're making it broad. I want to make sure you talk about in love, as far as, because I feel love, like, I feel we kind of had this conversation a little bit before, because
if we want to say in love, and the reason why I can't necessarily say that it was in love, I think the only time I could really look back at it and say possibly is based off of a condition. I could say the one time I felt I was actually in love with her was when she gave birth to my son. But that was short-lived, because 2 days later we got into an argument over the last name. Like, if I was actually in love with her, I would have been able to hear out why she wanted hyphenated last names instead of trying to let my toxic masculinity trump how she felt. It was like, no, our son's not carrying a last name. I don't care what you have to say. Like, if I would have been in love, I would have known I would have known why, and I would have understood why, instead of just hearing why and then saying no. Mm-hmm. Like, being in love is being able to understand not only why somebody feels this way, but what they've actually gone through and what their vision for that why is. Like, what it means not only from the past perspective, but what it means for them going forward in the future. Like, that's that blanket of security. Like, looking at our son, she sees not only my last name but her last name as well. That gives her some form of joy or security that I can't understand because I wanted just my last name. So that's why I can't say in love, because it was off of a condition of seeing her go through what she had to go through to give birth to my son. It was like an in the moment thing.
There's a lot to do with understanding.
Yeah.
You know? Makes sense. You agree with that as far as what it has to do as far as understanding and how many times have you been in love exactly?
Well, see, all right. So back to your first part. It's a 2-part question, right? So the first part is he's dealing with something there's a far greater magnitude. So I would say he's more of a subject matter expert on it than per se someone like myself, who I'm not a parent, you know. But so what's the second part again?
As far as how many okay, first of all, I want to know when you were in love.
Or when I loved that individual.
Yeah, when you loved the individual, as far as what made you feel like you were actually in love?
Oh, absolutely. So that's really easy. So from my perspective, the definition of love is when you want the best for somebody, and you're willing to prioritize, their needs and to provide and, whatever, by any means to fulfill those needs and make sure that person's loved and they get what they need.
What was this moment different from any other moments?
The precedence.
What do you mean?
Because you put the person's feelings and desires before yours.
You didn't always do that?
No, absolutely not.
I don't think that's necessarily in love though, because I've done the same thing.
Well,
I've put her above myself numerous times, like just out of love. But I don't think that constitutes
as
in love. Like
why is that?
You can do a lot of things for somebody just out of the kindness and goodness of your heart. You see them struggling and you want to help out. That doesn't necessarily constitute in love, because like we said earlier, in love should have like this form of mutual
give and take.
Give and take, exactly. And I never had the give and take. I was just doing the give.
Right.
I feel on that part. I feel it's kind of the other person
for you was
coming back.
No.
On my part. I feel it's the other person. I agree with him, but I feel on
so reciprocity.
Yeah, exactly. As far as the other person reciprocating the same thing, and that's how I feel. So I agree with him, but I feel that's still in love, but the other person has to be doing the same thing. Okay. So it matches up what you were saying as far as
otherwise it's just that you love them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just you.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
As far as that, okay.
And that constitutes an unhealthy relationship.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to be a whole bunch of give, and then you're going to be like, well, damn, what am I really giving for?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I'm not this person's parent. Why am I just giving?
Yeah, it's all about.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I did it up until I did it the entire 4 years, and every time we would go through an argument, I would question why I am giving, but at the end of the day, like when we actually sat down and we had our discussions, like I never brought it up. Like even though it was something that was constantly on my mind, I was like, am I being used? I would never formally ask that question. It's something that I just did not want to know.
Okay, like, so you asked because you don't want to know.
Yeah, it's just something.
You said you never asked?
I never asked because I didn't want to know. I wanted to. I know. I said I asked. It was something that I always thought about and asked myself, but I never asked her in a formal question.
Yeah, I mean,
because it's just something you don't want to know the answer to.
Yeah, why would you want to know? You play me?
I would want to know.
And that's why I said it all. This is what constitutes an unhealthy relationship. Like, thinking you are in love will have you doing shit that you wouldn't normally do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for it to come full circle, you doing that shit that you wouldn't normally do has to be reciprocated as well.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, it's not always reciprocated back. And it's not,
or to the same degree.
No.
Yeah, to the same degree, or what you expect, of course, too. And it could just end up.
As rational human beings, I think we can acknowledge trying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See when somebody's trying, but person.
Like. A small person anyway, yeah. I mean, if you're rational in a relationship, I feel you can acknowledge trying. Like, it's like, okay, you at least tried. I mean,
it's like when the child gives the parent the little macaroni necklace.
It's
nice.
Macaroni.
And that's not to say that how I'm speaking on terms that, like, if somebody was watching, they're like, oh, well, he's expecting every relationship to be 50-50 the whole time. I'm not, but I'm looking at the entirety of what I've been through,
mm-hmm.
and I've seen a lot more 80-20, 90-10 than I've seen 50-50. And that's why I can't come to the conclusion of in love, because it's always been like this. It hardly has it been like this. In the times that it's been like this, there's been like pockets out of a calendar, not a full calendar to where we've been like this. It's been like, you know, right here, then we get like right here. It's like, nah, fuck that. Go back to 90-10. Like,
yeah, I kind of look at it as like mutual compromise. There has to be some type of mutual compromise.
And
even if it's not 50-50, it has to be some type of mutual compromise as far as how the relationship
like an understanding.
Exactly.
A healthy relationship, you need both people. It's a give and take type thing. So it's going to fluctuate. Like you said, it's never static. It's 50-50. It's going to be 80-20 sometimes. But it's going to shift, because if both people are giving, okay, that's fine. But if it's one person giving all the time, when they need the other person for that support and the other person can't give it to them, that's when the relationship fails. Because you're looking for it somewhere, you know, you're looking for that support, and it's like, where is it? They're not able to give that to you.
I kind of don't look at it as like a relationship, because I look at it as like, I feel people will look at it, because I feel I give a whole lot. So when people look at me like, damn, he's giving a lot, I don't know if I can actually match up to that. Like, I don't know. But I try not to look at it as an actual challenge or anything like that.
Go ahead.
As far as you know how I when I go all out for someone, I go all out for someone. Like, I do the over top. So I feel like I make the other person feel like, damn, they're doing a lot. I don't think I can compete with that, or I don't deserve that type of person, or I don't deserve this. Right. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's how I felt.
You know, I think we're not ignorant to the fact the right place, wrong time, or any of that stuff. But I think the ultimate test of loving someone is when the dust settles, you can respect each other as friends. Because if you love someone like you say you love them,
in love or love,
just love in general.
Just love.
Love in general is like, because in love, I feel like there's a lot of people who've been in love and they completely distance themselves because they know the trauma they're gonna go through seeing that person with somebody else, or this, that, or that. I feel like if you genuinely love someone, when the dust settles, you're going to sit here and say, you know what, I hope everything's going all right with you. I hope you're, you know, I still love you as a human being. I want you to do, you know, what's best for yourself. And I feel like that's the ultimate test of love, is when you look back at a failed relationship, or a relationship that wasn't necessarily supposed to be, you can still sit here and say, like, I'm glad you're doing what's right for you. I feel like that is like the ultimate test of being in love, and then what love is just in general.
Yeah.
How you feel in regards to the individual when things aren't going your way. Do you still have that compassion, that love, and still want the best for that person?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I know you talked about, you felt like when you was giving, you wasn't being reciprocated. Would you still do the same thing in the future as far as like give?
Yeah, because that's just who I am as a person. I can't change who I am as a person because I had one negative experience. I don't want to insult anybody, but I would be a small-minded individual to base my view and perception of love off of one trial and error.
Yeah, that's how I always try to look at it too. Yeah.
It sucks because, you know, you gave a lot, but you didn't lose nothing. You still got your health. You still got your you know, mental health, physical health. Like, you're still waking up every day doing what you love, and like, even if you aren't doing what you love, you're finding ways to not necessarily cope, but make the most out of every day.
Yeah, honestly, if you in the future, I've done this. I've looked at on back situations. I'm just like, damn, I was really upset about that. But now I look back like, damn, I don't know. This is what happened.
And the beauty of it is, like, you sit and you look back and you're like, damn, like, I've grown as an individual. You don't even like go into the exact details of what you were upset about. You're like, damn, like, I've really fucking grown as a...
It's crazy.
The further you distance yourself away from it, you're able to abstract and like boil it down to like the actual issue versus the situation.
Exactly.
But yeah, as far as like the giving thing, as far as in the future, because I always felt like that too. I don't want to let one situation define how I am to like future people and how I give to them. So I try to go by a certain standard. Like, okay, I'll give a little, see what they do. They don't do nothing, like, okay.
Yeah, and that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's give a little, like, give it, if they come a little bit, okay, give a little bit more. That was good. We doing this. This is going on. Let me know. Like, they don't do nothing. All right, whatever. You good?
I struggle with that.
That honesty and that transparency
is more so like
is
a
key.
light switch.
What do you mean?
I'll flick it on and off in a heartbeat. Like, well, you fucked it up for everybody.
That's what I was about to say. Like,
it'll take me a while to cut the light switch back on. But.
I was about to ask you, like, what made you like start giving rather than just like saying fuck it.
That person's worth.
That person's worth.
I saw how much the individual was worth, how much she meant to me, and I saw that that's what she deserved. She deserved my best. That's the only reason I gave it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But you felt like anyone before that didn't really deserve.
No.
Yeah. I feel like I struggle a little bit with that part. I feel like I will go for that chance, like that potential for that person, because I feel like everybody has that potential. So I'm like, okay, you want to try it? Boom. let's see where this goes. Let's do it. Like, boom, let's go. And then we do it, and then it's like, okay, never mind then. Like, whatever. But I look at it as potential. Like, even if they don't show it right quick, like, okay, you like me. Okay, you have potential. Let's see where this goes. Let's see what happens. But
potential can only get you so
far. Yeah, no.
And the reason why I like am welcome to the thought of chasing potential, because that's what I did.
I'm not even talking about chasing. I'm just talking about entertaining, I guess.
Well, I mean, okay. Even with the concept of entertaining potential, like one thing that's always in the back of my head now is like, okay, when is that potential going to be reached?
Yeah,
because you can't control it. Because
everybody's not mature.
You can do whatever you want to do, but only that person is going to flip that switch, like you said, and like, okay,
that's where I come from too. When I'm just like, okay, maybe I have that intuition. Maybe I have that. Oh, I could possibly flip the switch and do something good in this point.
But see, you have to recognize the potential and see, what that person could be, what you guys could grow into. But also you have to have have those realistic lenses where you can see like this is what it is.
Yeah, that's where my conscience.
Like if you're gonna bet off potential, then you have to understand the full story, not just what you see.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have that potential, but still will act off of impulsive decisions. Like still do wrong because they want to live in the moment, rather than realize that what you do today shapes your tomorrow. Like I stopped living off of the past of what I did, and just started taking it day by day. And like, okay, if I didn't do this right today, fuck it. Tomorrow I'm gonna just try again. So it's like I stopped paying attention to the past and more or less just banking on the present, because what you do in that present day was going to set up the future. So instead of me like trying to sit here and say, okay, if I do this at some point in the relationship, then this is what should happen, instead of just saying, you know what, fuck it, do this and then see where it goes. Like make certain statements, give certain compliments, and see how they react, rather than sitting in your head like, okay, well, if I give this statement, then I'm expecting this reaction. Because then you're gonna be like, well, damn, she didn't give me the reaction that I want. I'm not gonna give compliments like that, because you don't want that. You don't want that in your mind of feeling the compliments you give, what you do, is going unappreciated. It's kind of like the love languages, like you said, like learning how somebody responds to certain things, like. Whether it's the gift giving or the affirmation or the communication or whatever. I'm not sure what all they are. You're more inclined to break that down again, but that's just kind of like how I want to go moving forward. It might not go like that, but like looking back on a relationship, not calling it a failure, not calling it a success, but calling it like a learning experience, because it allowed me to grow as a person.
Makes sense. Has it ever been a time do you ever feel like where potential can trump actions?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like
potential can trump the reality?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can trump like the reality of what they're doing. Like, okay, you feel like, okay, this person,
but you know what that is?
I feel like she can make a good wife, but she's not doing this right now, and it's really pissing me off.
It's
what?
It's an 8-letter word.
What is it?
What is it?
Settling.
Settling.
Come on, man.
I'm sorry.
You gotta draw a hangman for
settling. Interesting. Why do you feel settling?
Exactly what you just said.
Because
you're dealing with present day actions that don't align with your morals and your views, but yet you're accepting those present day actions that you just said.
No, I'm talking about whatever. No, I'm not talking about what.
Okay. I thought you were sitting here saying like you're in a relationship, they're not doing something right,
Okay, I was thinking more of a talking stage. They not doing something right as far as something.
You're being too introspective. I think too early. Like there's nothing wrong with that because you're trying to get the full picture. But I'm saying that full picture, like it's.
No, I was as far as relationship, I know for that for a fact. If they do something stupid, like
I just wanted to be sure.
Potential my ass. Get the fuck out of here. Come on now, like no, that's what I'm feeling. But I was talking about as far as like you just met this person or something like that type.
Well, again, like I think that's like tricky in itself because if they're doing certain things at the talking stage, those certain things are going to be present in the dating. Like you're pretty much banking on the concept of somebody changing because a relationship is a potential.
Yeah,
and that's not a safe bet. Like that, you playing a blind hand.
I think you have to pick and choose as far as what they're doing and things you don't like too.
Okay,
if it's something simple as far as like.
True, because based off of what they're doing, you should be able to determine whether they're going to be able to understand you when it comes to that point of saying like, okay, this is like. Yeah. And some people will take that as you trying to change them, though.
True. But that goes back to the understanding thing of them not understanding that you're not trying to change them.
You're voicing
and that's
a concern
too. And that's maturity, too. But, I mean, how much do you feel maturity plays into that?
Maturity, that's most important. It's primary. You know,
the funny, I was thinking about this a long time ago, and I was like, women mature faster than men's. Faster than men.
Your men's.
But they plateau so quicker. Like men are like, so if this is a woman, they go straight up, but then they level out. And it takes a long time for them to hit that next level of maturity. Like men are slow as hell, go down a little bit, slow as hell, go down. But when they finally reach maturity, then it's above women. And it's like you have to find that clashing point again. Because you remember, like, even during middle school, like,
when you
women used to play the fuck out of men.
And when you have a mature guy, you have a mature guy. But as far as, I know what you're talking about.
Like, a lot of men's immaturity comes from a result of them getting played by every girl and any girl in middle school. Like, that breeds that player attitude. And then it's like...
Wait, you said every what? You said every woman? Or
like every dude being played by like every woman that they like during the middle school. Because of course you have those, those romances that start from middle school and they go through high school, college, whatever, and they get married. But there's
few like far between.
Yeah, it's very few and far between. So you have like a lot of men that were played in middle school, got that game from women, played it, reversed it on them.
I feel it's different. I feel women got that game from men.
But see, this comes the issue because typically at the younger age, they're dating guys who are older, so it's very cyclical. It's kind of like they're yin and yang. They're
I don't know, man. I have to so I'm not
because this is how my my food chain always went. Guy play girl, girl turns into guy, girl plays guy. That's mature.
So I'm like. Not to like put on my hip hop hat, but I like firmly follow like when Tupac is like got our game from a woman, got our name from a woman, and then he's like, why we take from our women, why we hate our women, like shit like that. Like I actually think about it. A lot of like what we do as men is like not even as men. Like I don't want to like put us in a box, but a lot of what we do is based off of like game we've peeped from women and itself. Like if you actually look at it. And not to like pick on people, but a lot of like the men who grew up in single parent households who live with just their mother, like them niggas they get a lot of fucking success with women because they got their game from their mom. Like they know exactly, okay, if mom is acting this way, then I know exactly what the fuck is going on. She ain't been getting this, that, and the third. So when my girl acting this way, I'm gonna just fall back. Like. It creates like an unhealthy cycle of why shit is the way it is, and then like I said, when women plateau, men are typically above them, and then it's like men still in their fucking stage, so it's like women, I really want a relationship, and then it's like they both meet in the middle, like okay, you done hoeing, I'm done hoeing, then we can just cruise together, like it's a whole bunch of different climaxes and plateaus, and it's, you don't believe me?
So he keeps shaking your head, but look, I agree with him for one, because I feel like men maturing, women most often, at least in my case as well, they were the catalyst for me to mature. I was caused to mature because I realized, hey, this individual's worth such and such. So I was able to, put forth the correct amount of effort, give it my all because of what I felt like she was worth. She caused me to mature and be in that stage, be ready for that. Versus, left to our own devices, I don't think that I would have achieved that.
Gotcha. No, it's an interesting way to look at it. I just look at it from a different way, as far as, because you said single parents households, how what guys actually get from the actually mom. I look at it something totally different. I look at it as far as guys see that single parent and they just, okay, mom is all alone, she's working hard, whatever, so let me go, and they indiscriminately act like dad and then disrespect the woman that they're dating, and then that's how the cycle goes. That's how I look at it. That's
so
how I look at it.
Reason why I feel like you can't limit yourself just to that perspective, because it goes back to the foster parent perspective earlier.
Okay.
Nature versus nurture.
Exactly.
Okay, makes sense.
Because there are some that do have that perspective. Like, you can look at LeBron James as a perfect example. Like, wanting to be in his kid's life because dad wasn't. But then there's like a lot
of
other...
of course there's leeway. I'm not saying every guy is like that. Of course there's LeBron James, of course, is different though, because he's grown up to be 6'9". He's playing basketball. He had an extracurricular activity, so it's kind of different. Extracurricular activity from gangbanging on the street is kind of a little different.
Bro, these bitches love niggas that slang dope. Don't play yourself, bro. Bitches love somebody that could fucking move some cocaine, because they know niggas got money. Like, women not stupid, bro. Women.
I feel that's when I look at it from that lens, I feel that's them looking at the older guys rather than niggas their age. That's how I look at it.
I'm not even gonna lie. I used to be so big on age, and not even like on no like weird shit. So when I was coming up, I was like, I really want to date somebody my age, which I did. Like, there was only a year gap between myself and my son's mom. But like, as I got older, I realized that because motherfuckers mature at different ages, you never know what age, like I said, not to be on no weird shit, but you never know what age the person you be with, because the maturity is at different. Yeah. Like, you never know what age the person will be when you settle with. Like, there's a lot of motherfuckers that, and as nasty as it is, like, there's a lot of niggas that was like 28, 25 dating 18-year-olds, but like that's because they meshed, like, mentally, maturity, whatever. That's because they meshed at that time.
I'm pretty sure R. Kelly's lawyer is gonna use that as his next trial.
You know what? Fuck that. Fuck that, dog.
He's gonna say the same thing.
See, that's why I said not to be on the weird shit, because R. Kelly was fucking with underage women. Like, I'm talking about, once I hit 18, I realized that not everybody matured at 18. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of motherfuckers won't mature until they in their 20s. So that's what I mean by that. Like, I'm no longer like sold on the fact that I'm gonna marry somebody exactly my age. Like, of course I'm gonna put a cap, like a 3-year gap above or below, but that's because I'm getting older. Like, before, it was solely like, if I'm 19, it's either 20 or 18. Nothing greater than that. And then it's like, as you get older, it's like, okay, 24 now, 21, fucking young, but if you're here in your head, then it is what it is. Like, I don't want to be sold on that, because it goes against what I originally believed, but it's also just coming to reality that, like, because we mature at our own pace, that it might actually be that. In 3 years, like, as you get older, the 3 years is like, well, what the fuck was I tripping about at 24 because she was 21? Like, we both in our 30s. Who the fuck, who cares? Right. And we care so much about stuff in the moment that as we get older, we're just like, well, why the fuck did I care about that?
The older you are, the less it matters. Yeah. Like, you look at people's parents, like, the dad might be like 61 and the mom's 55 or something like that. Like the further away from like the 18, 21 type.
Like, she was 24, you were 18. Yeah, but we didn't start dating until I was like 30 years old. So at that point, she's 30, you're 30, and she's 24. I mean, right.
Some women know that. Some women know that though, so because they'll quick to tell you that. Oh, I mean, Jay-Z and Beyonce. They're completely. But
Jay-Z was dating Beyonce at an early ass age, and he was still an old wrinkly nigga at that time, dog. Like, they've been like, it's weird. I think they've been.
Since you was like what, 7?
Cash Money taking over for the 9-9 and 2. Like, I think they were. around that time, like the beginning of the Destiny Child shit.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
they were still Destiny Child when they first started doing their thing.
Yeah.
I don't think they were like officially like together, but you knew of like Jay-Z, Beyonce at that time.
But yeah.
It is what it is. I ain't no sweat off that nigga back because he locked up, even though he fucked up, but he became a man and corrected what he had to do.
So are you saying that was his maturity moment right there?
Yeah. What caused the maturity though?
Him?
Yeah.
Probably
Him,
that CD that CD that she put out dissing him, technically dissing him, and all that exposure from him because people were really gonna eat him up if he literally got left by Beyonce. Come on, so you gotta think about that. So that probably changed you right there. Like, oh, I gotta straighten this up. Like,
but the thing is though, that like perfectly goes into what you were saying earlier about seeing single mom grow up and all this stuff.
Yeah. Because
Jay-Z, single parent household.
That's one of the examples. Yeah, as far as
no, saying right.
Yeah. That's one of the examples I was going at. As far as I don't know. That's
he won't no balling, nigga. He 6'9". He didn't get drafted out of high school.
But yeah, what do you guys think? Basically, you guys comment. Let us know. Is it harder to be loved or is it harder to be loved? Is it harder to be loved or is it harder to be loved by someone? Basically, okay. Let me know. So basically, the next topic I want to go over is I was on my way over here. I was actually listening to like a news show and
Is this an NPR radio?
Well, it actually came from NPR radio, but it wasn't NPR radio.
Oh, okay. NPR radio got some good shit.
Yeah, they do.
Like,
yeah,
all hours of the day, they got some good shit, bro.
Yeah, it actually came from NPR radio. It said by 2040, due to climate change, like the Earth could become unrecognizable. And after hearing this, I'm just like, oh damn. I thought we had more time, type shit. Like I was
exactly, bro. The thing is, it says you said 2040, and that's what you heard. I lied to you not when I was in my.
It's less.
No, when I was in my philosophy and ethics class, or no, environmental ethics class, 2050 was the year.
2050?
Yeah. Like, not to say that, the Earth would be completely unrecognizable, but they were saying that, like, they want to have emissions down to where they're supposed to be at 2050 because any point past 2050, we risk irreversible damage to the Earth. So the fact that there's, like, a 10-year gap against us, like we'll see.
I just, yeah. I mean, it's fine, but I don't. I don't think. I feel like I should. That made me think about my future. So I don't. It makes me think about my kids and everything like that. So. Like kids, like, do I want to bring kids in this world? Is the Earth really going to be unrecognizable at 2040? Like, are we going to run out of oxygen type shit? Like, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about all these scenarios. Like, are we going to run out of oxygen? Like, where are the trees going? Like, what's going on? Like,
wait, we got to get some money so Elon Musk is into this tomorrow.
Start terraforming.
I would. Yeah, that comes on too. Like, should we start going to space more? Like, is it too late for Earth? Like, what's going on? Like. I just want to know what you guys think because we've been having these, of course, hurricanes too, and I feel like every year hurricanes get worse to me. I don't know about you guys.
It's almost like the category 2 and 3 hurricanes are bringing category 5 damage. Like it's kind of crazy.
They start off, but they jump to like a category 4 quick, 4 to 5 quick. That's how I feel. Like they don't always stay at a 1 or 2.
So no. I mean, I get that, like the whole that aspect of like the warm water and becoming powerful, but it's like they hit the seaboards at only like a category 3 or 2. But the damage they still do at a category 3 and category 2
is
like
up there.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of weird. Like,
yeah,
we used to be like, oh, it's just a category 2. Okay, well, we might not have power, a couple trees down, but it's like, okay,
we might not have to leave the area. We might not have to leave the area, but now every time it's like, yeah, you guys got to leave, get the fuck out of here, like, bye. You in danger. Like I would always like. I remember being at the gym. I would see news reports like the governor said you will die if you stay here. I'm like, goddamn.
But he really did serious.
Like goddamn. Like okay.
I'm not gonna lie though. The fact that I'm not in like an evacuation zone, like I'm more like one of the last ones to be evacuated, And when the hurricane, does his little kick back into the ocean before it hit us, it's the most peaceful time because there's no traffic on the road. Because all the people in Zone A are evacuated. There's no traffic. It was funny because on Facebook, like as soon as what was the one? Is it Florence?
Florence, yeah.
When Florence missed, bro, like I was getting to work in like 12 minutes. It's usually like an 18-minute drive.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Nobody was on the road.
Green lights always.
Everywhere, bro. You said you pulled up to a red light and it turned green because they recognized you at the sensor and nobody else was going through. Like, oh my god, it was
That's funny. I feel it's crazy because they talk about because hurricane coverage is always on the news, but they rarely ever talk about climate change too. So I feel that's kind of
they go hand in hand.
Yeah, exactly. But they talk about the hurricane because, of course, it's what people want to hear about, and it's something they're clinging to their chairs. Of course,
a lot of people don't have the mental capacity to understand it. Like they're going to hear something on the news
to understand what,
like exactly how climate change and hurricanes are, like they're mutual.
I feel if they watch the news.
No, reason why I say that is because like a lot of the news that we hear, or from other, like a lot of news we hear comes from somebody else's mouth. And people typically can't interpret science in the way that they hear it. Like, it's like, okay, well, I missed certain things, but I can get you from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. I might not be able to tell you 8.1, 8.2, like, why shit is the way it is, but I can tell you, like, we're here, and then this is why.
Yeah. I don't feel that's the reason why.
It's the telephone game, because each person that the message is passed down to, the message is more and more abstracted.
Yeah.
It's less detailed and less, accurate to what it, and true to what it actually is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand like climate change. And I think that's like the Republicans' biggest thing is because there is no like cut and paste answer to climate change.
What do you mean?
In description? Like
there's no actual definition.
Yeah, like there's to where there's not an actual definition to where everybody understands it. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's their saving grace, because people can look and then like, okay, every year summer's getting longer and then winter's getting like extremely cold for whatever reason, but it's like a shortened winter. Mm-hmm. So like very few people are willing to.
And then you have the people who argue and say that the Earth was hotter years and years ago, it was colder years and years. But yeah, the Earth naturally goes through periods of geographic cooling and warming, but we're expediting the process. Or expediting. Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyhow, we're speeding the process up by our carbon emissions and all that, like our carbon footprint. Yeah, like it's natural, but it's not. It's never been this much accelerated.
Yeah, makes sense.
And they deny that when the numbers are there.
Yeah, I mean, there's people who still think the Earth is flat, so I don't. I think this. But as far as them not covering on the news, I feel it's not about people not understanding. It's just them not believing it. I feel it's more
the people who believe climate change doesn't exist and that the Earth is flat are the same people who believe that water is wet.
We're gonna go there.
No, we don't have to go there because I assume everybody at the table believes that.
So you don't feel, you're not worried as far as?
Oh yeah, I'm worried because I have a full understanding of it, but at the same time I'm like, one person can't change everybody's perspective, because even I don't have a full sound understanding of it. I have like the cause and effect, basic definition of it or understanding of it.
What do you think it would take for people to actually find it? Like nothing?
No, there isn't. So the thing was, we had like a couple debates in my environmental ethics class, and it was like putting a cap on every nation's carbon emissions, but having like a capitalist spin to it, to where like you can buy carbon emissions from other states or other nation states that don't emit as much carbon as what the cap is.
So it's one pie, but you can trade those shares, but there's one solid cap.
Yep.
Okay, I got you.
And we were like, that even that wouldn't work, because it's just going to be the same cycle as what it is today. Like somebody's going to be polluting more than what the other country is. It's just going to be at a cap.
No, I'm talking about as far as them realizing.
Oh, bro, people don't have the
not solution, because I feel solution, of course.
It's going to be the same.
Because I feel the reason why they do, part of the reason why they do it is about the money anyway. It's about either saving money or making more money.
Impact. Yeah. I don't think, even if they did see the individual impact,
they might see it. They might just not care.
They don't. A lot of change doesn't come until people start dying, and then the people who are ignoring this stuff then have to answer to why they knew what they did but still didn't make the necessary adjustments. Like I mean, that's just like the cold, harsh reality. Like, we typically, as a nation, don't do a lot until people start dying.
Right.
Like, think about the water crisis in Flint. Like, I'm pretty sure, we sit here and say, like, okay, there's birth defects.
10,000 people died tomorrow, then
the long-term deaths.
Exactly.
Versus, them just dropping dead.
Exactly. Because then it's like, oh my God, Flint water, like, it's an apocalyptic zone up there. And really, to an extent, you could look at it that way, because there's no reason why they don't have, clean water years later. But
people also underestimate their impact on the earth. For example, like, I tried to convince my mother to recycle back home, and she said it was too much trouble to sort the stuff out, which I really didn't buy that.
No.
But then also, I'm kind of hypocritical, because the apartment complex I'm at now, like staying here, we don't have recycling, so I don't set aside my stuff just to take it somewhere else to recycle, which I probably should, but I'm also guilty of that. And people don't understand, like, the role that we all play in it.
Yeah,
it's surprising for Norfolk not having.
I just feel like you said you surprised what?
Surprised that Norfolk doesn't have recycling everywhere.
Especially like the capacity of people that live here. Like, there's a lot of.
Interesting, but yeah, I just feel that it's crazy. Like, how do you feel comfortable raising your son? Like, I
don't think about it.
You don't think about it? Interesting.
There's so many and I don't want to like necessarily say like the American way of living is, but as Americans, we really don't pay attention to a lot of stuff that doesn't have a direct impact on us right then and there. And climate change is like something that's happened, but you don't see the direct effects right then and there. Like, if I burn this carbon, I'm not going to feel the direct impacts of it. My son might feel it, his grandkids might feel it, but I'm not feeling it right now. So that's why, like, a lot of people don't necessarily.
But you don't feel it would always be like in the back of your head, like you dying, like when you're gonna die, like, oh shit type thing. No,
I don't really. No, because I don't operate.
Like, oh my God, it's gonna die.
I don't function off of like fear. Like, when it's your time to go, it's your time to go.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Can I touch back on the initial question?
Yeah.
Of you saying, you asked, did we think that the Earth would be unrecognizable by when 2040?
It said it would be unrecognizable by 2040. Do you feel comfortable, like, as far as raising kids and stuff like that?
Okay, so I abstract myself away from the kids part. Just saying, do I feel it will be unrecognizable?
Yeah. Do you?
Absolutely, I do.
You do?
Because, all right, so
first of all, when we say unrecognizable, what do you guys think as far as?
That's what I'm about to get into.
Okay.
I looked at the statistic for how much the Amazon rainforest is deforested every year, and so apparently it's 27 soccer fields every minute. So that equates to about 18.7 million acres of forest annually that are deforested. Okay, so understand that 27 soccer fields a minute. Now, if you think about the importance of think about the importance of plant life. So not only so first off, animals and plants we both participate in respiration with, as a byproduct we produce carbon dioxide. The plants, they use that during photosynthesis. And people think about forests as doing all that, but the actually 50% of all photosynthesis, I believe, is performed by algae, aquatic life. The water temperatures are rising, and that also can be it can explain coral bleaching. So you guys are familiar with that?
I heard about it, but not really.
So what happens is when the waters are warmer, it becomes more acidic, and the corals, they have these bright, vibrant colors because they have a symbiotic relationship with the algae. So the algae lives in them. So once it gets too hot and too acidic, they start to expel the algae. And once the algae is expelled, the corals start to die off because they don't have this symbiotic relationship anymore. And once they do that, they start like I said, they die off. So the coral reefs, like the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, for example, it's home to like a lot of species. So the food species that they die off, the coral reefs, they protect the shoreline, like from beach erosion. So that goes back to like the damage being worse. Well, because we don't have these natural barriers, because they're dying, we're killing them off. Yeah. Because climate change and us speeding the process of accelerating it, and it's a trickle down effect. Like the coral reefs, they also like filter out a lot of the water because they feed on like the sediments. They're filter feeders, and it's a lot of people don't take into account just the algae. Like that's one of the biggest factors that contribute to why we still are as stable as we are right now. Like without that, the earth just falls apart.
Yeah. Everything he just said is exactly why the news doesn't say all that. Because I wouldn't be able to regurgitate everything he just said in one piece to somebody else to explain why that stuff is happening. Mm-hmm. Like, the most informative thing I've heard all day, but I can't say verbatim what he just said to somebody else to where they can understand. They will lose interest so quick and then just go back to doing whatever they do.
Go back to burning places.
Exactly. Like me knowing it, like I can sit here and say like and put two and two together, you know, in the future. But I will never, unless I do my own research, be able to say everything he just said verbatim to somebody so they actually understand why. Mm-hmm. And news is supposed to be that quick. Like think about how you know quickly a story is here and gone. Like,
yeah. Unless you care about
climate change is like a little like it needs like a documentation or documentary special, like part 1, part 2, part 3, so people have like a full. And I mean, you know, I know it's out there, but I'm just.
Yeah.
You know how CNN do their special town hall meetings with what's his name, the bald black dude. His name like Van or something like that. Yeah, Van Jones.
Yeah. Van Jones.
I'm not gonna lie, I would watch it.
You said what?
I would. Like when Van Jones does little town halls, I watch them. Even if it's not anyone I care for. Like I didn't care a lot about I voted in the 2016 election, but when he did it, I would watch him. Even though I didn't care about either candidate, I still did my due diligence.
Yeah, I actually watch him. He's actually on a show that I was actually watching on the way here. In the show sometimes.
On the NPS?
No. It's actually what I watch is Real Time with Bill Maher.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's sometimes on that show. But yeah, I was just asking as far as that question. I just feel it's one of the main components. If not the main component, one of the main components is profit. So I feel like, hey, we save money by putting this right here, our chemicals in this ocean right here.
You don't worry about it later.
Yeah, well, and two, I feel they don't have to worry about it in their lifetime too. So they're like, fuck it. I mean, I'm gonna be dead. I'm gonna die rich anyway. So
I think though Obama tried to address that though, like with the tax cut, the people who adopted technology that would help reduce their output, their emission output, or whatever. Like he did stuff like that. Obama did stuff like that, but of course,
yeah, it'd be a shame if that was repealed, wouldn't it?
What makes you think it would be repealed?
I mean, because we need coal, right? Don't we need a lot of coal?
What do you guys think? But yeah,
you don't mean sarcastic.
No.
Some people who are watching this probably don't, but you know.
But yeah, just let you guys know. What, like, as far as you, you didn't really answer about the kid.
The kid thing.
Yeah, like, do you feel
that doesn't deter me at all?
It doesn't deter you.
No.
It doesn't deter me at all, but it would be something I would, of course, think about. It doesn't stop me from like, oh wait, hold up, baby, stop this now.
So let me get the. There's a hole in the ozone.
You know about that Earth thing I can't.
Like, think about how many people when they had kids, like, damn, I really brought a kid into this BS when Trump got. Like, we don't give I don't give a fuck today. Like, I think. A lot of like social media posts like I really brought a kid into this, but it doesn't have a direct effect on me. Like I sit here and I
feel it'd be different if the kid is like 7 at least. If the kid won't remember the president, I feel it'd be different. Yeah, I feel your kid won't remember the president like that though.
I feel like people
exaggerate. I feel like, okay, and you was born in what, 94?
Yeah.
Who was president in 94? Was it?
I don't know, bro.
Okay, boom. You know what
I mean, I would say, like, wasn't it? It was HW, then it was Bill Clinton, and then it was Bush. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
it was Clinton during '94, I believe.
No, it was HW. Should have been HW.
You say you feel it was Clinton? I feel it was in Clinton in '94 too.
Clinton served, so he served the term and then got impeached in the second term.
He didn't get impeached.
Bro, Clinton didn't serve out his full term.
He probably served one term.
So then it wouldn't have been Clinton, because one term is 4 years. I was born in '94.
Maybe I'm thinking too early.
Yeah, list of presidents.
I might be thinking too early.
1994. Yep, it was Bill Clinton.
Really?
Yes, sir.
So how long did he serve then? Because that doesn't equal 2000.
Was it 2 terms?
He served 92 to 2000.
Yeah, it was
Bill Clinton was president from
one
January 20th, 1993, up until January 20th, 2001. So he served 2 terms.
I thought I could have swore that.
Interesting. You talking about he got
I thought
impeached?
no. I thought like I don't know why I feel like he like didn't get impeached, but he stepped. I don't know. Fuck
Like stepped down?
yeah, like I don't know why in my head.
You think maybe you're thinking of Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon stepped down.
You're right.
It was almost
No, Bill Clinton, they did.
they tried to impeach him, but they didn't have enough. They didn't
Yeah.
have enough to do
Right.
it. That's what it was. But Richard Nixon was the one that stepped down after.
Yeah, after
And
Watergate
he wasn't
scandal.
actually impeached. He, like you said,
Yeah,
he stepped down.
he stepped down. Yeah.
They just kind of
So, yeah,
forced
okay.
him to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how I could have got them mixed up. Those are like two opposite ends of the spectrum.
But yeah, it doesn't deter me either as far as like having a kid. But it is scary as far as just hearing that. I'm like, fuck.
Nigga, Bill Clinton was president when I was okay.
But
I gotta die when a Democratic president is in office.
But as far as like you don't remember his policies, like Clinton's policies.
I couldn't understand them. Unless you study them retrospectively.
Clinton also wasn't like a goddamn dickhead. Well, he was a dickhead, but he's not a dickhead that's in the news.
I feel of course Trump will be remembered as being this dickhead though, but I feel it won't be so monumental where like, yeah man, when I was one I felt that shit.
Trump,
too.
the reason my issue with Trump is Trump was a dickhead before he was in office. He was a dickhead before he even thought about running for office.
But that could have been for any other president. They could have just not have showed it, you know.
But showing it is what
Leaves a
drives
stain.
other actions.
I didn't say it was right or wrong. I was just telling you.
I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but I'm saying what's more impactful.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, you guys want to wrap up with anything as far as one last thing you have?
Stay chaste.
Recycle. Please. I know I don't do it, but please recycle.
But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, first question: is it harder to be loved, or is it harder to be? Is it harder to love someone, or harder to be loved by someone? Basically, okay. And then, if comment below, and if the Earth is being messed up by 2040, are you worried? Like, what's going on?
Irrecognizable.
Yeah, unrecognizable. Are you worried? Like, what's going on? Like,
Or do you think it's flat?
yeah, do you think it's flat? That could be one too. Hey, if you think it's flat, I won't judge. Like, hey, it is what it is.
I will.
You will. But thank you guys for tuning in. As you know, I'm Joshua Freeman. Got Mr. Bryan Carey, Mr. Desmond Tillmon. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, subscribe, all of that. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.